Hey, everybody, welcome to Wednesday. Here we are, man, the day after Super Tuesday. We got a big show, got a lot of information, got a lot of highlights, got a lot of voting results. So, hey, everybody, welcome to the show. Please share and follow with all your friends. Subscribe to all of our channels. We're on all social media platforms. Subscribe to our channel. Is This Thing Working? We're on Rumble. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook, X, True Social, Getter. We're there.
Apple, Spotify. Good morning, everybody.
And if you're wanting to support our show and you want to buy Denise and me a cup of coffee, hey, please click on the donate button that's found in our bio on all of our social media pages and also on all the platforms that we're on, like Denise just mentioned, Rumble, YouTube, Apple. What's that other one?
Spotify.
Overcast. That was the one I was thinking about. But if you go to there, you will find a link in the bio and on all those platforms in the description section when you download the podcast. So thank you to all of our listeners who help us and support our show. Man, we do this for you. We do this to bring you the information.
But first of all, we would like to congratulate President Donald J. Trump for winning 14 out of 15 states in Super Tuesday yesterday. It was awesome. MAGA showed up. It was great. Well, actually, conservatives showed up to vote for the best man for the job. So I just think that's awesome. There was a couple of exit polls from last night that we want to go through, though, that we found very interesting. These were CNN exit polls, so we wanted to go over those real quick before we get into the meat of the show. But here's a question that was asked. The exit polls from Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Virginia, North Carolina, and California. Okay, the first question was, would Trump be fit for the presidency even if he's convicted of a crime? Over 50% of those conservatives said yes, they believed he was fit for the presidency.
Was this a poll strictly to conservative voters, or was this a poll strictly to people in the demographic area?
Well, it was asked of Republican presidential primary voters or caucus goers.
Okay, I got you.
This was just conservative, just Republicans.
Okay.
And then the next question was, do you think that Joe Biden legitimately won the presidency in 2022? In 2020. Sorry about that. And over 50% said no. Like, for example, Iowa, 66% Republican presidential primary voters said no. They don't believe Joe Biden legitimately won the presidency in 2020. That's just amazing to me.
Yeah. And what's amazing, too, is in states that are basically Democrat strongholds, places like New Hampshire, California especially, even there, and you see these percentages, 57% of Californians believe that Joe Biden is not the legitimate president.
Yes.
When you see that, you got...
Yeah. And it really shows the divide between the supporters. But I think it's more along the lines of people seeing and saw with their own eyes what happened in 2020. And the media did not do their job well enough, I guess. But this one is what we found very interesting. Which one of these four issues mattered most in deciding how you voted today? Over the economy, immigration, foreign policy, or abortion? Now, the Democrats are running on abortion. They think that abortion is the number one issue.
Abortion's a red herring.
It's a red herring because it is the least important issue of these four. The economy, stupid, is the number one issue for Republicans. And immigration is a very close second. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think they're neck and neck when you look at the numbers. So economy and immigration are the top two issues that we're going to be voting on come November 5th.
Yep. Well, one can't be fixed without the other being fixed.
It really can't. No, because the immigration is really hurting our economy. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, I've said this over and over. Until we close the border, stop the overpopulation of the amount of workers in our country, stagnating our wages, until we can close the border, get that taken care of, the economy will never improve.
No, it won't. But thank you to President Trump. Nikki Haley dropped out of the presidential race this morning. So we knew about that was going to happen first thing this morning. It's about time.
I really figured she was going to stay in the whole way through. But, after yesterday, I guess donors pulled their money.
Yeah, there was a couple of states that they really tried to pull off, like Massachusetts and I think North Carolina. And she didn't even hit the 50% mark, and I think that was their
tell.
When she couldn't even get up to 30%, they're
Yeah.
like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But President Trump come out with a statement this morning, and after Nikki Haley had dropped out of the race, and he said, Nikki Haley got trounced last night in record-setting fashion, despite the fact that Democrats, for reasons unknown, are allowed to vote in Vermont and various other Republican primaries. Much of her money came from radical left Democrats, as did many of her voters, almost 50% according to the polls. At this point, I hope she stays in the race and fights it out until the end. I'd like to thank my family, friends, and the great Republican Party for helping me to produce, by far, the most successful Super Tuesday in history, and would further like to invite all of the Haley supporters to join the greatest movement in the history of our nation. Biden is the enemy. He is destroying our country. Make America great again.
I want to point out, too, something that I've noticed in the open primaries here where Democrats can switch party over to Republican to go vote for Nikki Haley. Let me tell you something. I think if that was really what was happening, she would have carried more of a vote. I'm beginning to be of the mindset that a lot of those that were Democrat voters that switched over, when they got there to the primary, they voted for President Trump anyway. I'm beginning to believe that. You know what I mean?
I'm wondering myself, too. And, you know, they did a lot of interviews with Democrats that said, oh, I'm going to vote for Democrat. I mean, I'm going to vote for Nikki Haley today. This happened in Virginia quite a bit. And then the reporter asked, well, who are you going to vote for in November? And they say Joe Biden. So that happened a lot yesterday. And, you know, I just see that's wrong.
Well, sure.
We're fixing to get into Texas.
The Texas primaries.
The
That's what we've been
Texas
gearing up
primaries.
for 2 weeks now.
We have been working hard. And we believe we've been effective. And after last night's primaries, you see now that we are needed in this information space to get these names and candidates out there. We had some losses. For example, Trent Ashby won his race here in District 9. I'm so disappointed. We really wanted Paulette Carson to win, but this one was hard because Governor Abbott endorsed Ashby early, and he couldn't go back on his word. I did ask Paulette Carson personally, though. I asked her, how are you going to overcome Governor Abbott's endorsement of Ashby? She, of course, held up other endorsements, and they were great endorsements. She had Mike Lindell from My Pillow, a lot of local endorsements.
Yeah.
You know, so
and she had Paxton's endorsement too, didn't she?
Yes, she had Paxton's endorsement. And it just, around here, you know, these people, they go with the name they know. They don't pay a lot of attention. We really tried.
Yeah.
We really tried. But, you know, Abbott's endorsement goes a really long way, you know, so, and it showed up in these primaries. But Joanne Schaffner won in District 11,
Yeah.
so Clardy is out. We did work on him, so we did get a win there.
Yep,
So it's
good.
real exciting.
Yep. Good job, District 11 voters.
Good job up there in Nacogdoches, man. That's awesome. But we were going to go through a little bit of why we think all this happened. Abbott and Paxton both had a lot of wins. Now, our Texas Attorney General, he endorsed a lot of candidates, and he was, you know, behind the 8 ball already. 7 won their primaries, 7 are going to a runoff, and 3 are too close to call, except for one of them. I think the Green Little, the runoff. Oh, Mitch Little, he ended up winning his. So there's just 2 that was too close to call still, but 20 lost their primaries, you know, but they had to fight hard to keep them. You know, and so that's pretty interesting.
Did you vote for any incumbents yesterday?
No,
I didn't either.
not
Yeah.
one. And that's what we need to do. We need to change the makeup of our legislature. We really need to work really hard on getting incumbents out. They've been in there too long. But you know what? We kind of made them spend a lot of money. We made them come out and talk to us. And we voted how we want. I mean, we voted where we wanted to go. Governor Abbott had 7 primary wins. 4 of them are going to runoff. 2 lost their primary, and 1 is too close to call. But as you can see, I believe that the border and school choice was very big up here in Texas. And Texas showed out, and there were certain areas that we could not overcome. But we're going to work on those areas, and we have a lot of work to do on these runoffs, especially Speaker Dade Phelan, who managed just barely scrape through to the runoff. So I think we can get him out.
Yeah. He was getting beat earlier in the night, wasn't he?
Oh, big time.
When the early counts were coming through.
He was. So we'll be working real hard to help David Covey to win over Dade Phelan. So we'll be telling you people that we're going to be getting behind.
Yeah, and talking about the endorsements of Ken Paxton and Greg Abbott, I followed Ken Paxton's endorsements a whole lot more throughout this than I did Governor Abbott's. I agree with every one of Governor Abbott's endorsements, don't get me wrong, but Ken Paxton's was who I really followed, especially with the Criminal Court of Appeals. All 3 of those won. David Schenck, Jana Parker, Lee Finley, and the Criminal Court of Appeals, they all won.
That was awesome,
and
man.
Here's Attorney General Ken Paxton's statement from last night. It was on X, and this is what he said. This was really a good statement. I wanted to share this with y'all. He said, Attorney General Ken Paxton issued the following statement regarding the victory of endorsed judges David Schenck, Gina Parker, and Lee Finley in the Court of Criminal Appeals. He says, in quote, tonight, Texans have spoken loud and clear. The victory of judges David Schenck, Gina Parker, and Lee Finley, endorsed by my office, marks a significant movement in our state's legal history. It sends a powerful message that Texas demands judges who prioritize the Constitution and uphold the rule of law.
Yay. I'm so proud.
Yeah, he says, let me be clear. Let me be clear. The issue is not just about political labels. It's about safeguarding our democratic principles. Activist judges have no place on our courts, and tonight's results reflect the will of the people. To those who would seek to obstruct justice or undermine our laws, know this. The people of Texas will not tolerate it. Your days of judicial activism are numbered, and Texas are ready to hold you accountable. Case in point with that is the activist judges. They're the ones that went in there, like we said. They went in there and they made the ruling that the Attorney General could not prosecute election fraud crimes, that it had to be up to the county DAs to do that. The voters voted loud and clear on this. That, yeah, when that ruling came down from them, all of the different school districts, administrators, and all of them began their campaigns of election engineering, and still the voters seen that for what it was, and they spoke loud and clear about it.
They went out and voted accordingly.
Yep.
That's exactly right.
The 2 biggest wins in this was those activist judges being gone, school choice being shown that is exactly what we want. The Board of Educators are not going to be able to shove that down our throats, that we can't have what we want.
And the teachers' unions did not win this one.
That's exactly
correct. The people's voice spoke.
Yep.
So it's time for our unions and our teachers, the TEA, to get out of the people's business. The people want... If you don't want us to take our children out of your government school, get rid of CRT, DEI, whatever you think you're going to call it next. Get rid of it out of our schools.
The gender affirming care, the LGBTQ issues, the trans things,
the pride flags. I don't want a pride flag in my grandkids' room.
Well,
I'm sorry, I just don't.
Get all that out of our schools. There's no place for that.
Get it out of there.
Yep.
That's what we want. The people do not want government schools to tell us and educate our children government ways. No.
If that's how you're going to be, then every citizen of this state ought to have the right to pack their kid up, take them to the school of their choice.
Exactly. But since one of the number 1 issues that the Texans and all of America has on their mind right now
is the border.
And we're going to keep on the border. The 2 things that Americans are concerned about is the border and economy. So you know what we're going to be talking about for the next 6 months: the border and the economy. So, since we've been talking about the border, we're going to bring up something that probably got lost in the weeds of the primary, and that is, did you hear that Joe Biden secretly flies migrants into the United States of America?
Well, we've already known about that. He finally admitted to it after years of lying. Let me read you this. This is from a New York Times article that was dated June 24th, 2022. And I'll just touch on a couple things that the New York Times writer Miriam Jordan wrote in this article. For months, Republican politicians and commentators have been accusing the Biden administration of flying thousands of undocumented migrants on secret nighttime ghost flights from the border to cities all over the country. Ron DeSantis made a statement about that back in 2022. He said, here's what happens with these flights. There's no notification to the state of Florida. These are done mostly in the middle of the night, and it's clandestine. And we even had videos of other people in other states that were standing outside at the airports filming all of this. The federal marshals would come up to them and make them go away and leave. But the controversy took off on Fox News back in 2022, especially after Rob Astorino, who is running for governor of New York, released a murky video showing the migrant teenagers disembarking from a plane in Orange County, New York. We, the citizens, pay all their bills, he complained on Twitter.
Wow.
So we had this story coming out back then.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
And when they were questioned about it, the director of the Immigrants' Rights Clinic at Columbia Law School, she made this statement. After they were accused about it, she made this statement. She goes, for years, both Republicans and Democrat administrations have used charter flights to safely transfer unaccompanied children from the border to shelters nationwide. The claim that these flights are new or secretive is baseless and irresponsible, she said. This was back in 2022.
Their same talking points they always use.
Okay. Then, so as of yesterday morning, then this story broke, crushing that lie and crushing that narrative. Colin Rugg reported early yesterday morning. He said, report, Joe Biden has secretly flown 320,000 illegal immigrants from Latin American airports to 43 U.S. cities. Treason. It gets even worse. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection is refusing to identify which airports they're being shipped into. Quote, it says the program at the center of the FOIA litigation is perhaps the most enigmatic and least known of the Biden administration's uses of the CBP, one cell phone scheduling app, even though it is responsible for almost invisibly importing by air 320,000 aliens with no legal right to enter the United States since it got underway in late 2022, said journalist Todd Bensman.
He goes on to say, under these legally dubious parole programs, aliens who cannot legally enter the country use the CBP One app to apply for travel authorization and temporary humanitarian release from these airports. The parole program allows for 2-year periods of legal status during which adults are eligible to work authorization, which is insane. All of this is insane. You know, do they count? I have this question. Do they count these illegals as crossing the border? Are they in the numbers?
I don't know. But the thing is, with this, they're not just saying that, like the story went back then, that they crossed over the border, then they were put on a plane and flew somewhere inside the United States on...
That's the falsehood that they've been telling.
That's the falsehood they've been telling you. These people, they've been shipping them in from other countries, flying them from those countries into our airports. And when they were asked about it, they say that it's a security risk and a logistics risk for them to reveal all the information that they have about where they're flying them and why they're flying them. Bullshit. I call bullshit.
I call BS too on this.
And so now it's finally been admitted. People, this is what we're dealing with. This is why these elections are so important. This is why we have to. This is the only voice we have left to fight with,
That's
guys.
it.
The only voice
and
we have left to fight with.
We told you, immigration is one of the it's the number 2 issue.
The economy and our border.
Is this thing working?
Rise up. Well, hey, everybody, that's it for today. Thanks for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed the show. Hope you've learned some things about what's going on around us in the nation and in your communities. You know, we couldn't do this without your continued support either. We appreciate all of you showing up. taking the time to listen to us today. So please, like I say, make sure to hit the like button, share our show with all your friends. We'll see you next time on Is This Thing Working? And as always, I'm James, and that's my lovely co-host over there,
Denise,
and we'll see you next time.
we're out.